Hi, this is Dan. I've been asked to prepare a short class on completing the CMA. Preparing CMAs is a really important skill for us. Honestly, it's really more of an art than a science. So let's jump right into it. So the source of this material, a lot of it comes from Candy Cook's class, The ABCs of CMA. Candy is an excellent educator. As you can see on the screen here, she's been involved in real estate since 1983, involved in residential and commercial, both in management, development, construction, sales. She's a contractor with the state of Texas for the assessment of appraisal districts with schools with regards to school district funding. She's a certified teacher, just a really qualified person. If you have an opportunity to attend her classes, I highly recommend it. Let's move on and talk about the goals of the CMA. Number one, buyers, their big concern is they don't want to overpay. And so we're preparing a CMA for them to determine the appropriate offer price. For the sellers, it's a little bit different. We're trying to balance the best price with the shortest days on market for their sale. So we're doing the CMA to determine the appropriate list price. We want to avoid overpricing to inhibit interest where it sits on the market and nothing's happening. And then we want to avoid too low of a list price where they leave money on the table. So that's what we're trying to balance with the CMA. For the listing agent, we're just trying to help the client achieve their goals, and we want to avoid appraisal issues. So having a good CMA is important. So the topics for today will be the CMA Basic Guidelines, how to obtain and choose comparable sales, how to produce the QuickCMA, and then we'll do a practical exercise on an actual property. The next level that I will not get into today is the advanced CMA preparation, where we get into comprehensive adjustments and those guidelines, how to prepare a listing winning CMA, and then how to prepare an appraisal packet so that we can make sure that the property appraises for the contract price. So let's begin with the definition of market value. Basically, it's the estimated amount for which a property should sell for during the date it's being evaluated with willing buyer, willing seller, it's being properly marketed, and both the parties are knowledgeable and aren't any compulsion to purchase the property. So first off, we should look at bracketing. When you pull the CMAs, you should look for one that's bigger than the subject property, one that's smaller, one that's older, one that's newer, one that's on a larger site or a lot, and one on a smaller site. So to find the best comparables, a couple of questions we should be asking ourselves: what would appeal to the same buyer, and what comps have the least amount of adjustments? So we should always remember to base our results on sales and then back up our result with data. And then when we get into the more advanced stage, use dollar adjustments, not just the price per square foot. And then finally, base our final conclusion on the data from our comparables. So when it comes to choosing the comp sales, we start off with history. Obviously, the shorter the history, the better accuracy we're going to get. When FHA looks at appraisals, they prefer that the history goes back no more than 6 months. They'll accept up to 12 months, but generally they will reject any comps that are older than 12 months. The area, really important. We always want to start within the same subdivision. You get outside the subdivision, there's less accuracy of your comps. You can run issues with school districts, quality of construction, a lot of things that influence neighborhoods. You really want to stay in that same subdivision if you can. If you don't get at least 3 sold comps within the subdivision, then move the months up from 6 months to 12 months. If that's still not, if you still don't get 3 sold comps, revert back to 6 months and then search by map in half-mile increments until you get those solid 3 sold comps. Rural comps can be very challenging. it's best to stay within the same MLS area, same town, sometimes same county for very sparsely populated counties. So when we're looking at the size, it's best to limit the range to no more than 25% of the square foot of the subject. Plus or minus 250 square foot's a good range. That's what Candy teaches. I prefer to start at plus or minus 10% so that I can have more accurate comps. Again, try to back it one larger, one smaller. When it comes to stories, try to keep the same number of stories. You may have to do some adjustments based on different areas that we're looking at. Bedrooms and bathrooms, try to keep to the same number of those. We can make adjustments if necessary, but as a general rule, try to stay with the same number. Same thing with the garage. Try to stick with the same numbers, but we can adjust if we have to. So your first search should be limited to the location, the square footage, and the age of the home. And we should also be aware of beneficial characteristics such as waterfront, golf course, greenbelt views, things of that will impact value that are a bit more subjective than some of the other criteria. So this is my CMA Calculations Worksheet that I use to help it easier for me to run comps. It looks like a lot of information, and it is, but for today, we're just going to focus on the square footage calculation, this little guide on the limits for square footage, and then by age. So the way that this is spreadsheet set up, yellow fields, you just fill those in and it'll automatically calculate those. So on the square foot calculation here, we've got one that's 1519 square foot. I went plus or minus 15%. So the range that I'm looking at the square foot is 1291 to 1747. A good rule of thumb here is you can go up to 25% if it's less than 1,000 square feet. Between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet, you know, plus or minus 20, 2,000 and 3,500, plus or minus 15%. And then when you get over 3,500, just a flat plus or minus 10%. This helps make it easier to have good tight comps where you don't have appraisal issues down the road. When it comes to the year built, you can just type in the year it is, and it'll automatically calculate the age and tell you what the maximum years you can go back and stay within decent numbers. So when we look at square footage, you know, start with that plus or minus 10 foot. We're adjusting to get those 3 sold comps. That's the goal. And here's the criteria again that we're looking at for that. If you want to, this is kind of from the investment side of things, the after repair value, you can take the square footage, multiply it by the average price per square foot of your comparable properties, and come up with what the property should be worth after it's repaired. Age, start with plus or minus 5 years of the subject property. And again, we're adjusting that to obtain 3 sold comps. So this is a good example of running some comps, and I'll see agents that will do CMAs. The issue with this, we've got a huge spread here from 458 to 730. So if you provide a client with this comp, I mean, how helpful is this without really narrowing it down? So the very first thing I do anytime I'm running comps, whether it's for the buyer or for the seller, I'm going to realist tax, and it just gives you a wealth of information. You've got your square footage, you've got your year built, number of beds, number of baths, and the subdivision. It's really important for the subdivisions listed here. There's just a wealth of information on realist tax. I always recommend that that's the first place you start when you're running your comps. So realist tax, one of the other benefits of it is you can see the mortgage history. That's really helpful, so you can help calculate how much they probably owe on the property using the mortgage data that's included. You can use the amortization schedule to get a pretty good idea of what they owe at the time of the listing appointment. So how to run them, you go into your MLS, you click on search, you click on residential, and it brings you to the screen. So let me go ahead and pull up the MLS here. Oh my God. So you notice when you first log in, you can go directly to Realist from here. And I've had a request to help run comps on 6208 Lake Terra Vista. We have one result. I will search that and it will pop right up. So it's good to know that this is 6 bedrooms, 4 baths, listed at $775. It's been on the market not quite 2 weeks, 3,005 square foot, built in 2017. And here's our subdivision information. So that's good information so that when we go back and do our search, we have that information readily available. So I'm going to bring over my little worksheet here. 3,000 square foot, 3,000. I'm going to go ahead and start at plus or minus 15%. So these are the parameters that I'll be using. So let's do our residential search. Start at 180 days, 6 months. We're going to search Terra Vista. Terra Vista runs into 2 different MLS areas. I know that this is in the Georgetown East, so I'm going to select that. My square foot range here is 2554 to 3456. It was built in 2017, so I'm going to go plus or minus 5 years here, except for I'm not going to go 2021 because I don't want any new builds in here. So you can see this gives us 12 matches. Here's our subject property. First thing we notice is it's listed at 775. How does that compare with everything else? That's way higher. So we need to do some investigation. I like to use a process of elimination to select my 3 solid comps. So I'll click all these and then I'll start eliminating them. So you remember we're supposed to bracket something bigger, something smaller. So I'm going to want to keep this one right here because it's bigger. This one here, smaller, smaller, smaller. That's not too far off. It's only got 3 bedrooms and got an extra half bath. I'm going to take that out. Obviously, we're not going to find something else with 6 comps. This is one of the biggest houses in that subdivision. This one is 1.5 stories. I'm going to take it out. 2,700 is quite a bit smaller. This is probably going to be a pretty good comp, pretty similar size. These have half baths. I'm going to go ahead and take them out. So these have half baths as well, but I can adjust for that. So when I look at something bigger, something smaller, I've got that covered here. I feel like this is a good place to start. Something that's beneficial is let's take a look at what these properties look like. We can quickly go through and look at the images. Really spacious rooms, nice looking house, granite. It's like stainless steel appliances. Okay. Let's look at our next comp. This appears to be a pretty comparable property. The fact that it's occupied or staged makes it a little more challenging, but I feel confident that this is a good comp. I like those extra windows in the bedroom. That's nice. Nice outdoor kitchen area. Definitely impact the value. Good sized lot. And a green belt behind. Nice. Let's look at the next one. The quality of construction may be a little bit better in this one. That's definitely something we're looking at when we're making the adjustments. But again, I feel like this is a pretty good comp. And our last one here. This is looking pretty similar to our subject property. Nice, closed in back porch. So the bathroom's not finished out as nice. That's kind of interesting. I haven't seen carpet like that. Probably pretty good for kids. So a nice deck, that's definitely going to impact the value as well. So let's go back here. We have our subject property. We've got the 3 comps that we selected. Let's run a quick CMA. So we've got an average price per square foot of 201, a median of 194. And so if I was representing the buyer, I would certainly indicate that this property seems to be pretty overpriced. We definitely want to take a look at it to verify that as compared to the other properties, but it appears that this is an overpriced listing, 10 days on the market as compared to 4 to 8 on these others. I suspect that the days on market will continue to accrue on this one. So that's our basic CMA. In the near future, I'll prepare another short class. It will not be near short because we'll be talking about making the adjustments and getting much more detailed, how to present these comps so that you can win the listings, and then how to prepare the appraisal packet so that you can make sure your property is appraised. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to call me, 512-965-3500. Thanks. Have a good day.